Welcome to episode 4 of Audio Logs. In this episode, we explore the highly detailed and very evocative audio of Lost Records' Bloom and Rage with Beatrix Moersch and Julien Goyon of Nod Montréal. We talk about their strong use of foley in music to convey a sense of time and space, how they collaborated with musical artists to craft the score and soundtrack, and so much more. Their passion for the game can be felt through every word. And so, we hope you enjoy our chat with Beatrix and Julien.
She actually showed. Welcome! See? Told you.
Yeah. You didn't miss much, Swan. We're just messing around.
Come in! Dude, what was that band you were talking about again? I wanna write it down.
Sleater-Kinney. They're pretty new, I think.
I was so nervous.
Really? Why?
I thought you were all so much cooler than me.
I knew she'd show! We should have taken bets.
All right. Well, welcome, Julien and Beatrix, to the podcast. How's it going?
Amazing. How are you?
Not too bad. Having a good afternoon here. This is the first time we've had 4 Montrealers in a call.
Yeah, that's true.
So we can all talk about the weather. This whole podcast could just be about Montreal weather, if we want.
Beautiful today.
No. Yeah. Change the name Audio Logs to like cone logs or like construction zones.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to talk about there. Yeah. So at the time of recording this, Lost Records has been out for, I guess, quite some time because, you know, we talk to people from various sort of degrees of, I don't know, launch. Some have just launched, some are about to launch, but Lost Records has been out for quite a bit of time. How's the reception been since release?
Pretty good. You know, we had a really core base of Life is Strange fans that we were hoping to get, and that seems to have been incredibly successful. I keep a close eye on the Bloom and Rage subreddit, and the people who like the game seem to really like the game. I've seen some incredibly positive comments there, so that's been very exciting to see.
Yeah. It's definitely a really unique kind of game. As I was playing it, I'm just sort of like, yeah, there's nothing quite like this. The way it tells a story, it really takes its time with that, and doesn't gamify a whole lot. It really sticks with that narrative element kind of thing. So,
but also to let the player be in the story, right? It's not super linear. There's a lot of impactful choices. And even though it's not an open world game, we kind of give you that open world experience because you can really take time to explore every location with the camera and with the objects that we're going to be talking about at MIGS and so on.
Mm-hmm. That's, for those that don't know what the game is, could we just get like a quick jot of like what it is, the elevator pitch version of it?
Do you want to give it a go, Julien?
I might try. So it's the story happens in 2 timelines, basically. It's the story of 4 women who made the promise to never talk to each other again in 95. And something happened, and in 2022, they finally meet, have a reunion once again, and we will try to know what happened and why they have to reconnect after so long.
Nice. Okay. And Beatrix, you mentioned the connection to Life is Strange. So again, gameplay-wise, is it something that's in line with this?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has that same DNA. The main characters are teenage girls, and you're very much playing in a normal environment where everything seems cozy and normal, and then as you progress, things get stranger, and in this case, a little bit supernatural. And even though you're exploring this mystery and this strange happening, you're still getting that core experience of playing the game from the perspective of a teenage girl. In this case, in small town Midwest USA in 1995. So there's also a very strong nostalgia element, and also being an outcast or being a black sheep in this semi-conservative environment where you just don't fit in.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I was a big fan of the original Life is Strange, and I felt like this game did like a lot of things differently, but it also felt very comfortable and like I missed those old slippers kind of feeling
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, okay,
Yeah.
we're here. So yeah, no, thanks for explaining the story and the sort of the structure. And before we dive into that, we always like when we introduce our guests, want to hear a bit about their sort of like progression from, I guess, being into games or music or sound or whichever avenue that led them to the career they're at right now. So either one of you want to start?
You want to go ahead, Julien?
Yeah, it's okay. So it's been almost 3 years that I'm a sound designer at Nod Montréal. Before that, I worked in several companies as an audio designer, and before that, I was a librarian for 10 years in France. So it's not the typical professional path for a sound designer, but it's been years, maybe more than 20 years, and I'm doing music. So I have an habit to work indoors with sound, and it was a long time promise.
When you say librarian, do you mean like an audio librarian?
A classical librarian.
Oh, like a book librarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Book, music, movies, TV shows,
Right.
even video games. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's written a couple of books as well.
Oh yeah,
really?
That's
Right
true.
on.
Yeah.
Okay.
What kind of
the-
books?
Yeah.
In French, literary essay about video games and TV shows. I'm a huge fan of David Simon's work, the creator of The Wire, an HBO show, and among other TV show. And so I have this side activity of being a writer, but only literary essay, not novels or thing like that.
Right. Well, I guess it informs what you're doing on a game like this that's super narrative focused and makes sense given your background.
Yeah, I think it's a thing that Dontnod was looking for, maybe not the usual sound designer path. Maybe it was something that could have been sound interesting for them. I don't know, but at least the thing is, I was a huge fan of Life is Strange too. I mean, the two Life is Strange before joining Dontnod, so I was super excited to join the company, and it has a true meaning for me to join and to work on game that I appreciate.
Yeah.
As a player.
Yeah. Very cool. Cool. I so excited to dive in sort of the more narrative details of the game. But first, let's listen to Beatrix. Where's your background? Where'd you come from?
Oh my goodness. So I went straight to university from high school. I knew I wanted to do something creative, so I went into film production. So I actually have a university degree in film production and studies. And that's when I first discovered how much I loved sound. I had an incredibly passionate sound professor. But I was still fully focused on filmmaking. I thought I was going to go into video editing. But then when I graduated, I started doing experimental sound sort of on the side. I was doing like experimental sound symposiums and art shows, and just finding a lot of success and also passion in that. So ultimately, I decided to go back to school, and I did a 1-year intensive program at Vancouver Film School for sound design for visual media. And that was a really good choice. It was an incredible program. I learned a ton, and I came out of that very much with a sound career. I did a little bit of film, but I hopped over into video games very quickly because there was like 30% of the course was game audio, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I really loved the logic element. I loved the technical side of it. And so it was a pretty easy choice. So I jumped into game audio. I started working in the games industry in 2014. Started in QA while I was looking for sound work, but started freelancing as a sound designer pretty quickly. And then I found a team at what's it called? The big game jam in the one
Global
that
Game
happens in-
Jam.
The one that that's the
Yeah,
one, Global
right,
Game
right.
Jam. So I ran into a team there. They were very early on creating a studio. They had no money, but they had a very cool idea. And I really jived with their aesthetic and their intent and the idea they had. So I started working with them for free. We were all kind of just working on the side trying to get this project going, and that gave us seed funding. And so as soon as we had seed funding, we were getting paid. We quit our day jobs, and I ended up being with them for about 3 years. Very, very indie studio. We were 5. That's Artifact 5. The game was Anamorphine, a very experimental sort of walking simulator.
Okay.
Very, very sound heavy, very music heavy focus. So fantastic for me. I really loved that project, really loved that studio, and met a lot of indie teams while I was with them. So I did freelance in a total about 5 years of freelance in the indie scene. I did a lot of VR at that time. And then I got picked up by Behavior Interactive. I think that would have been 2018. So I was with Behavior for 3 years. Worked on a lot of different titles, Dead by Daylight for the last year that I was there. I did the killer sound design for 5 of their killers. That was tons of fun. Very big sound design opportunities there. So I did that for a year, and then I got a LinkedIn message from Luc Bagarust, our executive producer. I wasn't looking for work,
Okay, cool.
but I was incredibly interested by what he had to say, right? The creative team behind Life is Strange, small studio. I really missed that indie environment. I really missed that indie vibe. Behavior is a very big studio in comparison to what I was used to before. So I talked to them, and I talked to them some more, and then I decided to make the jump. So now I've been with Don't Nod about 3.5 years. Bloom and Rage was our first project as a studio, and it's been incredible. It was absolutely the best choice ever.
Oh, that's awesome to
Absolutely
hear.
love the
Yeah.
studio, love the project, and I really felt like I was able to take back some of that indie energy in terms of the aesthetic direction and the studio vibes as well. So
Yeah.
here I am.
It's great to hear both your stories. It's a colorful background, and I feel like it makes sense why you're here working on a game like this. And yeah, that indie kind of feel that you're talking about, it's unmatched when you're working on bigger teams. It's a much different experience. You don't get that same kind of intimacy, depending on the project, obviously, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're talking to like your 5 or 6 or 7 people, but you don't even know half the people in the studio, right?
Right.
Whereas at Don't Nod, like I see everybody. I talk to a lot of different departments, and you feel tighter as a team for sure.
How big's the team at Don't Nod? Like ballpark?
We're a little bit less right now. When we were doing Bloom and Rage, we were about 50.
Okay. So still pretty small
still small.
considering.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's impressive. I love hearing about like this game comes out with like very much high production value aesthetics. It's not like a very short game either. It's a pretty long and dense one. And then you're like, it's made by what, 50 people at peak? That's
Maybe a bit more because we received some help from
External
external
Paris.
and people from Paris too. So,
Yeah,
but we were definitely under 100 people on the
Yeah, okay.
project at the max. Yeah.
I think of it as sort of a triple I. Production.
Nice. Okay. I feel like in this day and age, we hear a lot of like playing with the A's, like a double A, quadruple A, and whatever goes there. And the triple I is something that was coined a while back. I remember hearing about like that term. Gosh, forgot which game it was. But anyways, let's not focus on that. We're here to talk about Bloom and Rage. How can we get started? We have a bunch of topics on the docket, and I guess the first one that we wanted to sort of cover was the narrative aspect of the game and how audio sort of complemented / worked its way with that pillar. Which one did we have?
Well,
Do you have anything to go first, Mr. Dom?
Well, so Julien, we're
yeah.
preparing for our mixed talk, and Julien was sort of really emphasizing that it's an incredibly character-driven story.
Right.
First you meet the player character Swan, and how do you meet her? You meet her by going into her bedroom in 1995 and taking time and exploring her possessions. There's a couple of dozen different objects in that room, and you just explore and you get to know who she is because of what the story that's been placed into that room. And every single one of those objects has unique sound design. We were somewhat inspired by the game Unpacking. We really recorded tons and tons of different Foley objects. And so the things in the space that tell you about the characters, the environment that you're in, and ultimately the mystery that you're uncovering, they have really unique immersive sound design. So they have sounds for picking up and for putting down, and we really consider even the surface you're putting down on. And then handling sounds. So as you're, it's sort of like you don't have hands in the game. You're just sort of spinning the object with your keyboard and mouse or with your controller. But as you do that, you're hearing as if you're touching it and you're handling it and you're moving it around. And if you can interact with the object, for example, old VHS boxes, you can open them, you can close them, you can take the tape out. And all of that was recorded. So it really feels like you're there with that object.
It's crazy how some of those sounds just unlock. Like you said, the VHS tape, the plasticky kind of tape, when you open it up, has a bit of like a kind of like, there's like a very specific sound. It's crazy how just that unlocks so much emotion and memory.
We spent a lot of time to think about what every sound is supposed to provoke in you as a nostalgic object. And Michel was really, our game director, Michel Cor, was really focused on this approach too.
I'm kind of curious then, actually, because I guess when I first played it, I was like, oh yeah, of course, ton of detail into picking this stuff up because it's a mechanic. But now the more we're talking about it, the more we're talking about the narrative and how all these objects mean something very, deep, profound for the character. Was there sort of like, I don't know how to call it, like maybe like design doc write-ups per object, being like, hey, this object means this in Swan's life? Or was it that deep?
Not really. It was more that we were intimately familiar with the story. As sound designers, we're playing the game every day. I think the only people who played the game more than us were probably the QA. We played the game constantly. So we're really familiar with the intentions behind the objects, the story that we're developing, their import in the characters' lives. And we also had weekly creative meetings with Michel Koch, the creative director, not talking necessarily about each object, but the story as a whole and the emotions we're going for, the importance of nostalgia. And Michel also emphasized that he really wanted the sound design in the past timeline to feel dreamy a little bit.
Oh, right.
Right? Not necessarily larger than life, but like outside of reality a little bit, right? To have that like rose-colored tint of memory. And so we made sure to keep that in mind as well with the sound design.
Cool, right? Yeah. There's a ton of other details. We're gonna go right to the most niche stuff because why not? So there's a bunch of like, I guess, radio plays in the game. Am I right in saying this? I don't know if I've...
Advertisements, right? Yeah, ads.
Okay.
So we have a pretty extensive playlist of music. All right, there's radios in the background in a number of scenes in the game. Tons of music on that radio that when I say we, I mean Julien primarily dug deep into the Audio Network archives and found a lot of great music. And just to add a little life to the environment and to the time, we also created a number of very 90s ads that could play on the radio between those pieces of music. And they're just right there in the random container. So every now and then, instead of music, you get an ad.
Cool. How was the process of making these ads? Like, because they sound quite playful, it feels like. So I'm just curious.
Usually it started with myself. I would be like, okay, I think we need a beer ad, or I think we need like a grill house ad.
A pizza
We also
one.
have We have ads for a couple of locations you can see in the game, such as the ice cream stand, which is a really low budget ad because we're like, this is like a total little local ice cream stand, and then a bigger budget ad for the movie palace.
Here at Movie Palace, we have all the Hollywood hits. Comedy. Drama.
No, don't die, please.
Animation. And even horror. With endless titles to choose from, we've got something for everyone. Lights, camera, Movie Palace.
So I would start by I picked where I wanted ads for, and I did like a basic write-up. I would be like, okay, this is how the ad's going to go. And then Julien made most of the ads, maybe all of them.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So then we either recorded ourselves or recorded staff members. We just sort of hunted down people we thought would have good voices. For example, the Grill House ad was recorded by our animation lead. He has a great voice, and then we sort of lowered that a couple of 100 cents of pitch just to get it really boomy. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, we also were looking for people with a good accent, you know, a North American accent.
Yeah, that was it, right? Like, the one wonderful exception to that is our lead.
Baptiste.
Yes, Baptiste. What is his official title? It's not lead level designer.
He's
story
now
game designer. Game
designer. Design director.
He's the lead of all the level designers. He's a fabulous character, and he has a thick French accent, but he managed to drop that. He did the Movie Palace ad, and it's awesome. It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. I just want to clarify, because when you said you guys made the ads, like Julien, you wrote the ads.
So I wrote the initial script. Then we actually had the narrative writers sort of fix them up for us a little bit.
Right.
Then we recorded them in-house with our various staff members, and then Julien put it all together into the sound design and all of that.
That's such a fun detail that sounds like y'all put a lot of work into, which is so nice for a game like this.
Yeah, plus the narrative team was also involved to like reread what we wrote to be sure that it matched. For example, I remember a moment where I told Beatrix, you know, when we were kids, we were repeating the slogan, some of the sentence you can hear in a advertising. So it could be nice to hear Swan say something like that. And if you film the Movie Palace with Swan's camera, she repeat the slogan.
Lights, camera, movie palace. And it's straight out of the ad.
That we hear in the advertising. And it comes from the audio, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, was the initiative or like the idea to make these ads something that you guys came up like in a tunnel somewhere isolated, or was it like a collaboration with narrative initially?
My idea.
Yeah, I think it was yours. Yeah, indeed.
I really, you know, when I started with the sound design of the space, even before Julien joined the team, I just was thinking about all the things that remind me of that time, like 1995. I was 10 years old. It was like, what can really bring us back there sonically? And the unique characteristic of the ads was one of those things that really brings you back, right? Because ads were very different back then than they are now.
Absolutely. Yeah. What comes to mind immediately is it's that Canadian ad that would play all the time. Was a hippo in the closet that would eat your food.
I don't know this one.
That
you don't
sounds
know this?
wild.
Oh man, this is gonna kill me. Closet
You're making
hippo?
it up?
Is it closet hippo?
No, I've heard is it pocket hippo?
I don't remember.
I've
The whole
heard
thing
of
was
this.
like, don't believe
Like I've heard
everything.
other Canadians talk about it, but I don't know. I missed that entirely. I didn't have cable, so I don't know if it was a
Right.
cable
Okay, yeah,
thing,
yeah.
but I don't know this one.
Someone
one
in the
of-
comment will find the answer, I think.
We'll find the video and put it right into the podcast. Hopefully, won't break any copyright issues. We'll see. But yeah, no, you're right. It's crazy how watching any of those old ads brings me right to that time. And for me, I remember specifically watching, let's say, like Ghostbusters on VHS, and it was ripped from TV, and so you see the ads from the time, and I would watch that
Yes.
years later and still see that stuff, and yeah, it brings you right there.
Yeah, and
we did
besides the
some YouTube
nostalgia,
research, right? Just like
yeah,
trying
yeah,
to find old ads and be like, we
yeah.
need this vibe.
My algorithm was full of advertising from the 90s after that.
Did you have
But
like a
yeah,
favorite ad in this research phase?
I
Of
don't
real
know.
ads? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Maybe they all
Yeah,
blended
the
together.
one for the one for toaster pops. What are they called? They're not called toaster pops.
No, I
Pop
can tell.
Tarts.
Pop tarts.
Pop
Yeah,
Tarts.
the '90s
Okay.
Pop Tart ad was pretty out there. I
Okay.
enjoyed that
Cool.
one.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing besides nostalgia that all those ads bring to the game, it also suggests a world bigger than you can explore, because the scale of the game is kind of narrow and tiny. It's really an intimate story, but with all this suggestion, like you can hear ads from a movie you never heard about object you cannot see. It suggests that the world is alive and bigger than you can explore.
Right. And did that come out of a sort of necessity of like, because I gotta imagine you're a small team making this game. It could be hard to like, fill it with a bunch of NPCs and really make it big.
Yeah, there's not really any NPCs almost. I mean, there's a few in the bar, but there's very few. I'm not sure there are any except for in the bar.
Yeah, on the parking of the bar at the beginning of episode 2, there's a character
Oh, that's right.
called Pam.
Yeah, in the present. I don't think there's any
Yeah.
in the past though, which though kind of works with the memory element because you don't remember random people, right? The only people that populate your memories are the people that you.
Yeah, and
the story
it's really a
incorporates.
teenage focus, like only my friends count, the rest of the world is less important.
No, I guess the sort of density in detail that the world has also carries that load and doesn't require anything more because there's so many things to either explore, like examine, or just filling the world, both in sounds and in visuals, that it really feels like it's lived in and it has history. So
Yeah. So on that note of lived in world, yes. Okay. So past versus the sort of present, I guess it is.
recent past.
You're retreating these two as different kind of palettes. One is more sort of like you said, old and lush, and the modern, it feels more dry. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely. Very realistic, very almost understated. It's really just background noise. It's just, you put down a glass, you hear it. It's cold. Yeah. It doesn't have any warmth. It's very much just hear a dog, see a dog, clean. There's no sound design except for when you're entering the memory or the past. There's no non-diegetic music. There's no soundtrack at all until the end. And so that was a way for us to really separate those two timelines.
Yeah, and definitely, it definitely feels separate. Whenever I feel like we go back to the past, it's kind of when it hits me, like with the music and all the feeling. Like, oh yeah, okay, this is different.
Plus, the present is in a first-person view. Perspective. Right. So the purpose was really to create a distinction between past and present.
There's also a big difference in how music has been used over there, seeing that the present only seems to have like diegetic sort of in the bar music kind of thing, whereas everything that's in the past is pretty dense with music and packed.
Yes.
So could we talk a bit about that decision and the work that's been put into that?
Yeah, I mean, that comes straight from Michel. That was one of his original briefs, is that he wanted soundtrack in the past and not the present to really emphasize the memory, the nostalgia, the lushness, as you put it, Dominique, of the past, and the cold uncertainty of the present.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know about.
Okay. No, I mean, if to go further into that, like, it's also the composers that worked on the game are not typical composers, from my understanding. They have like a more of a musical background in like bands and performance.
Yes, they're musical artists. They were selected by Michel before I joined the team even. And he really wanted to take a little bit more of an unusual approach. He wanted the sound. He wanted that dream pop vibe. That was very much the genre of music he wanted for the soundtrack. So we approached Ruth Radley and we approached Milk and Bone. And together they wrote all of the music for the game. It's about half and half. They didn't work together. They worked separately, but they did communicate. We talked about common keys. In some cases, if we knew that we were going to be using pieces of music back to back, we actually made sure they were in the same key. Sometimes we even sent pieces of music back and forth so they knew what the other was working on. For example, and this is actually a third piece of music, but there's a track that Milk and Bone wrote for us for the scene near the end of episode 1 where the band is about to perform, and we wanted the tension of that space, but we also wanted to recall the song that they're going to perform, See You in Hell. So they actually worked with See You in Hell. They incorporate some of the melody of See You in Hell in that track. So there was some cool collaboration along those lines.
Right. And I imagine like working with like musicians who aren't don't normally do game audio music. Maybe there were some weird ways that you worked with them. Did you like design a lot of their stuff in Wise or?
Yeah, so we got linear tracks from them. We talked about what kind of moments we needed, if we needed drops or rises. We really explained the background of the story to them. This is going to happen, this is going to happen. So we need musical moments that emphasize that point or underscore that moment. And then we let them run with it. And, we got back a piece of music that was somewhere between 4 and 7 minutes long, depending. And then we got all of the stems for that piece of music. And we had the creative freedom to break those stems down, to rearrange, to remix, sometimes even to blend different pieces of music. And that allowed us to expand those tracks into several more, such as the menu music, but also in a lot of cases, lower ambient drones, tension building moments and things like that, where we used just pieces of stems to just get us to where we needed to be.
Yeah, it makes sense because, that's at the core of this story is this group of girls, it's their band. So that sound is super integral. I'm kind of curious, did you two make any music yourself for this?
Julien did a little bit. I didn't.
Okay.
No.
Can you,
I composed the music of the ads, almost all of them. There is maybe just one that we took another...
the Trailside beer ad
exactly.
used country music that we got on Audio Network.
Yeah, exactly.
The rest, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I composed all the rest, so it was super fun to do. Otherwise it was mostly, as Beatrix said, guiding the composers to what we wanted to achieve, what a scene is supposed to say, where are the characters emotionally at some point. And sometimes we also send them demo to illustrate what we wanted to do, like having another arrangement of Swan theme at some moment of the game, to reuse the melody but in a different tone. So yeah, that's mostly it.
The story of how we came to the tape 2 humming Swan's theme is actually quite interesting, back and forth, if you want to tell that.
Yeah. So originally with Beatrix, when you work on a game for so long, you hear the music a lot of time, and we at some point we were feeling like that we were lacking of materials at some point, but because we needed to receive some more music also we were waiting for more music. So during that I made a tiny arrangement of the Swan themes, which is the Life and the Wild and No, the original title on the soundtrack. And I had this idea of a warm feeling, something very intimate coming from the inside, and I wanted the main melody to be hummed. And
you slowed it down as well, right?
Sorry?
You slowed it down. The BPM was slower.
I think, and it's softer. There is no drums at all. The synths, the pads are very different too. And I asked Beatrix, could you sing it for just to have a to tell our intention to Ruth Radley and her team, and they were super receptive to that. You know, when you direct some musician and you tell them how they should compose music, it can it can be tricky because you don't want to be offended. Plus, we really loved working with them. The music they did was really great, but sometimes you know that where the music should go to, because you're working in the game constantly and you know what kind of feelings you want to create. So sometimes it's easier to do it yourself when you have some music background. And so yeah, Beatrix and Michel approved it before we send to them the arrangement, and they rewrite it. They used it, but arranged it a bit more in the tone of the soundtrack to make it more consistent with what they composed, and the track now exists in game and on the official soundtrack of the game too.
Nice. It's fascinating to hear all those use of music and how music was like always in a discussion. It sounds like just hearing like the ambient music being like stems from songs that basically play like the leitmotif leading into like you hear the song, it already feels like familiar because of that. All that kind of stuff. I think it's fascinating. But there's one bit of music in the game that's totally outside of that, and that's basically the in-world band. Could we talk a bit about crafting that? Because I'm assuming it's not the same artist or anything, right?
No, absolutely not. It's Nora Kelly. And that is a fun story. So fairly early in production, I don't think Julien was with us yet. This was shortly before you joined the team that I was hunting down possible artists for that piece of music. We really needed that garage punk vibe. We wanted a female group or a female-led group, and we wanted that really like grassroots garage punk band. We didn't want to fake it, right? We wanted to have that feeling. And I was going through a lot of music on Bandcamp, and I was really looking primarily at Montreal. Because Montreal has like a raging punk scene. I was like, there's got to be a group that fits our needs here. And I found a band called Dish Pit. And I was like, this rocks. This is such a great vibe. Really a lot of energy. It was 2 women. So I emailed them. Didn't hear back for a long time. And I think in the end, Luc followed up. And finally, she responded. And she's like, I totally thought this was a scam. This is just like this random cold email. Do you want to be in a video game? She just didn't believe it. And then, you know, we talked to her and we convinced her we were for real. And we met up, and the band didn't even exist anymore. It was like they had one album out and they broke up, but we managed to reach Nora Kelly, and she's like, yeah, this is really interesting. I'm interested in doing this with you guys. So she, you know, we explained the story, we explained what we needed, the vibe of the piece that we wanted, how it really is. It's one of the core elements of the story in the game. So it's incredibly important. We wanted something that had a lot of passion, a lot of energy, potentially a lot of rage, but also something was earwormy and fun to hear. She comes back with See You in Hell, basically in its complete form. We had no notes. It was like, wow, this is perfect.
Was that easy?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
For real. It was incredible. It was like, yeah, I don't think we had any notes for her. It was just perfect. So that's the canon version that you get to hear on the soundtrack. But you actually change the lyrics potentially. You can choose, you help write the song in the game. So after that, we asked for variations based on a couple of different choice points that you can make. She wrote 3 other variations, I believe.
Yeah, I think.
This is 4 variations of the song in total. And that was awesome. That was also great. We changed a couple minor things in the writing. I think narrative team might have helped with that, but it was really like on point. And then right near the end of production, she wrote us the acoustic version, which is in a minor key. So it's really like a whole new version of the song. It's beautiful. It brought tears to my eyes when I heard it.
Yeah, and it's only guitar and singing.
It's
no
gorgeous.
drums, no bass.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so when she provided you with the song, it was fully recorded, or was
no,
it
no,
just,
it
right.
was just her on the guitar, sort of
Right.
like this is the song idea I have. This is what I wrote.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
And-
and then
and s-
after we approved it, we set up a recording date. We recorded it at a professional studio that just happened to be across the street from
Yeah.
our game studio,
yeah.
actually.
Wonderful.
And Julien and I were there all day. It was I think it was probably like almost a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
So we recorded a ton of takes with her new band, because now she has a new band. They actually do folk, but they did a killer job on this punk song. So they recorded the track, but we also took the time to record a lot of interesting other materials. So we got drones, we got sound design that they did on the bass and the guitar that we use for sound effects and sound design in the game. And we also recorded a lot of fiddling, instrument handling noises, messing around, playing random chords. And this is what gets used in the band, in the garage. When you first meet the band, about halfway through episode 1, you hear... So a couple things. First, through the door of the garage, when you're knocking, you're trying to get in and they can't quite hear you, you're hearing really muffled conversation and you're hearing them messing around with their instruments. That's actually the band. So we got that straight out of that recording session. And then when you're in the garage and they're playing around with their instruments while you hang out and you explore and you talk, all of that was recorded with the band. So that's all real material that we recorded with Nora Kelly's band. And then we recorded them playing the song ultra poorly. Because we wanted this distinction between the big performance at the end of tape 1 and them just sort of learning the song. They're still learning their instruments. They're still writing the song. It's very rough. And we wanted to hear that difference. So we really had to get them to play poorly, which was quite the adventure for them as well. As a musician.
It was super fun because we were telling them, no, ruin what you're supposed to do well.
Play it worse.
Yeah.
Play it worse.
Miss that chord or whatever it may be. Yeah.
It's a balancing act to not make it sound like you're joking around and not playing it or pretending not to play it. So that sounds like a fun challenge.
It was super fun. Yeah, it was a very entertaining day. It was a blast. Had a good time.
Yeah, and in the end, I think it sounds really authentic when you're in the garage. You can really project yourself in an environment like that.
I feel like anybody who's been in sort of a high school garage band can totally relate to being in the garage and just cranking the amp too loud, and it's kind of annoying, but that's you're in a
Even
band.
that, like trying to find that balance to get that realistic amp noise without it being like a super annoying sound that plays through the entire scene. It was like quite the balancing act.
Right.
And,
okay.
and actually on this note, there's a really fun interdepartment collaboration that happened in that scene where fairly late in production, we connected with the animation team and we set up a whole system to make because the sounds that play in the garage are from a random container. They're very much audio driven. But then we wanted to sync the animation.
Yeah.
So, when you're hearing her play scales on the bass or fiddle around or whatever, that you can see that. So we put a whole bunch of action events into the wave files in Wise, and that triggered animations.
Very cool.
Really?
So
how'd you make sure that it didn't go like jump from one end of the fretboard to the other in a like unrealistic way or anything? Was there
we built like a system. So we had separate systems for the left hand and the right hand. So there was like a high fret, medium fret, low fret. And then there was like small fiddle, large fiddle, and like a strum. Maybe small strum, large strum. I can't remember exactly how many we had in the end. And then after every single variation, we would get them to put their hand back at the bottom of the...
Okay.
So it was just like we reset after every one. And obviously it's not like super perfect in sync, like the finger positions are on the right notes and stuff, but it gets us there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like any sort of drive to get that kind of like music performance in sync is a lot, because I feel like it's the kind of thing that's notoriously bad in a lot of games where you just see this and they're playing violin and it's like it just doesn't match at all. So yeah, seeing some thought being put into that is super cool. So in that scene, you the player can sort of play music with the band. There's a drum machine.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time, programming that drum beat.
I love that.
Yeah, super fun. And something I noticed at the end of episode 1, you hear a drum beat in there. I'm like, wait, was that the drum beat I made?
Absolutely.
It is.
That is.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh yeah, you commit. You
Right.
commit when you choose your beat and you choose your sound bank. That is what plays in the performance.
That's so interesting. I remember thinking like, it sounds a bit weird, and I'm like, maybe that's because it's something I made and it doesn't sound the best. But
we made we made a very weird sound bank for the fun, and there is one which is more melodic than rhythmic. So
the synthy,
yeah,
that's the one I chose. Of course you did. That's my vibe. But
totally, it was like, again, a balancing act, trying to find something that gave you creative freedom to really like switch it up and do your own version of the beat without it making it sound like really out there in the performance.
So you got your instruments in the middle. The first is the kick, the snare is second, and the third is the toms. That last button on the right is the hi-hat. And that's it. Try them out. You can change the sample bank too, by the way. It's that first button on the left.
Ugh, not that one.
It's not that bad.
So for that system, for the drum machine, did you have, when you initially sort of prototyped it, did you want to go further with it in terms of all the things you can do, or?
Well, so it was important that it was easy to use for somebody who's never used a drum machine, who's not a musician, right? We didn't want to go too deep and make it difficult to use for somebody with no experience. But we also wanted it to be satisfying for those of us who do mess around with sample banks and drum machines. So what we ended up with is very much sort of what I was imagining when I heard about the idea originally. So you get your sample banks. We did originally want to do more sample banks, but I think we have 5, and that's a pretty good number.
Four in total. We wanted to do a fifth one, but we didn't have time.
It was out of scope.
Yeah.
And then you have 4 different possible beats for each of the 4 instruments. So it's hi-hat, toms, kick, and snare.
Exactly.
And you can arrange those any way you want, obviously. Or you can turn off the instrument. You could have ended up with no drums, actually. Totally
You can
possible.
do that?
Yep.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
you
you
can turn
can.
off any of
Yeah.
the 4 instruments. If you want to just have like kick and hi-hat, you can do that. So
Yeah, and
Wait,
there is also a smash button that you can hit at
Yes.
any time just for fun.
that was
and,
just for fun, yeah.
yeah, and one of the in one of the soundbank, it's a Beatrix voice.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and listen to that.
Yeah. Sounds like you struck the right balance of like, it makes sense given the context of like you're jamming with your friends, you're trying to come up with something that sounds nice, but you can also make it sound weird. It's like just expressive enough to feel
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a simple drum machine. It's not a very elaborate one. It's just, it works, does the trick. So yeah, no, that's... Was there any other sort of collaboration with other departments in regards to music and those kinds of system? Now there's animation. There's obviously, this is more of an audio thing again with the drum machine, but
Gosh, off the top of my
Anything
head.
else?
I mean, so there's the motion capture. When we brought the girls in to record for the garage scene as well as the performance at the end of tape 1, we needed to motion capture that. We needed to get it like really in sync with the music. And so we were on set that day, and also Nora Kelly came in to help them out. It's like, this is how I hold the guitar, and this is yeah. So that was cool, definitely. And just trying to get it synced up and making sure that we have that system in place, because the music, it's not linear, right? So it happens in the garage scene as well as in the performance that the music is playing on a loop while you do your stuff. And you as the player decide, essentially, I mean, whether or not you are aware of it when we go into the cinematic. So the cinematic can start at any point in that piece of music.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tricky.
So that, yeah, definitely, definitely. So we actually built a whole system where there's a little like looping wait cinematic. So we had action points on the music on every like first and third beat. And then we had this little looping wait animation. So we could get to that beat that we needed to be able to sync up the animation and the music.
Cool.
Yeah, in short form, that's how it worked.
Right.
And we use that in other places as well when we're transitioning from soundtrack while you walk around to cinematic soundtrack. We have this little loop animation, like in the case of the garage. I think it's a close-up on Kat nodding to the beat, and it's just there to get the music to the point where we can sync correctly to get into the cinematic at the right moment.
Yeah, love that. There's these little like tricky ways to sort of make the audience unaware of what's that kind of thing happening. And I feel like even not just in music, but in general, like the player can kind of interrupt conversations.
Yes.
And I guess sometimes I wasn't aware of it, but then I would like let conversations go and be like, oh, I can interrupt this. I imagine there was a lot of, back and forth and maybe a lot of QA testing to make sure that these interrupts didn't sound weird at all.
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of fine tuning of that system. But it was one of the core design features of the game that you can interrupt, you can adjust the flow of conversation, and you can also not speak. You can let your timer run out and just let the conversation flow. And there's a lot of dialogue lines that you're not going to hear because of the choices that you make as a player, which also adds to replayability. Because Michel really wanted that natural feeling of like a conversation between four teenagers, right? Like it can get a lot going on at once, and you can participate or not as much as you like.
Yeah, it's really a character-driven game once again, and you can tell from our dialogue system.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot more freedom in this game than one would think at first, because, on the surface, it seems like a more linear, walking sim. I know people don't like that
I know.
genre. I'm fine with it. I like it. It's fine.
Well, it's not the genre. I mean, as somebody who enjoys a walking sim here and there, it's the name that I don't like.
Oh, you don't like the name? Okay.
A walking simulator is a little
diminishing.
derogatory.
Yeah.
But I don't know what else to use, I guess.
Maybe in my mind I've reappropriated, being like, yeah, you're walking a lot. That's fine. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's
it's
wrong
a
with that?
branching narrative adventure.
Yes. Okay. So on the surface, it doesn't seem like you have a ton of freedom, but like you're saying, and how you can interrupt and what you can and cannot say, but also just like there's so many things to, and maybe we can segue into the camera. There's so many things to film. You can film them, you can not film them, you can film it all and watch the replay or not watch the replay. You can edit the replay.
Yes.
And I feel like there have been times when I've watched the replay and realized that Swan will give some extra context to some of the story, and it made me go like, oh, I should have been listening to these more often, because some of it is really interesting context.
There's a lot of deep detail in the game that you really have to look for to find.
Yeah.
A lot of love in the details.
I think we're almost to the overlap.
Okay, memoirs all set. But I can edit it some more if I want.
Should I try again, Swan?
So what's going on when you turn on the camera? There's a kind of mix that's happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Want to talk
So
about that? Yeah.
there's two levels to it, of course. First, there is when you're actually in game and you're recording. We use the Mech DSP plugin, so we have a lot of live control over the futzing in the mix. And it's a balance. You don't go full futz when you're in camera. You still hear in the real world. It's sort of like well, it really depends on that element. For example, VO is a little bit less futzed. Ambiences get dropped because they don't tend to sound that great when they're futzed. Sound effects get more futzed. So it was really like per element in the game that we're adjusting the mix. And then when you hear the playback, that's also a different setting again, where it's fully futzed. Levels have been, again, adjusted so that you're not hearing like really like nasty futzed ambiences and things like that. And the whole system that we have for the recording, because you're recording in-game content. So the way we did that in Wise is that we have an auxiliary bus in the master bus structure, and we're sending from the sub buses of each of the elements. So inside of VO, we have diegetic VO and non-diegetic VO, right? Because there's also like the flashback VO where you hear the people in the present speaking. That's not going to get recorded. So we went into the sub bus structure to find the elements that needed to be recorded, and the ones that needed to be recorded get sent to this camcorder aux bus, which has a recording plugin in it that was made by Paris Donad. And then the stuff that isn't, such as the UI, the sound of the camcorder itself, all of that just gets bypassed. Yeah. And then that recording that you create, that is burned in. So when you hear back the audio later in the menus, for example, that is the exact recording that you captured in the moment.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool. I love it because it's rough around the edges when you're listening back to it. It's sometimes a bit chaotic depending on who's talking, and some of the talking over each other interrupts. It's all in there baked in.
Yeah.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, one thing, I mean, we're talking about cameras and we're talking about if we're talking about creepy tone, there's a moment at the end of, was it near the end? Yeah, I guess it's near the end of tape 1 where you're in a cabin. I was trying to be too spoilery here,
Yes.
but you're in a cabin and, it's dark out, you take out your camera, and immediately I'm just like, now this is Blair Witch. We went from this kind of more teen coming of age feel, and now, and it was totally caught me off guard because I was so scared actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah, very scared.
That smile.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, there is something about just looking through the lens of old footage that just does it. It just makes me scared. And so there's an item in this cabin that you're looking at where the screen gets fuzzy, and it's very kind of weird. Can you talk about what that sound is?
Oh, there's a lot of iteration.
Yeah.
There's like a whole chunk of sound design that we did for that Abyss extra character. I don't know how much to say. It's definitely driving the supernatural and the scarier, darker elements of the story, particularly in the second half of tape 1 and in tape 2. One of the elements that I can say that really brings the core of that sound design is a saw, a bowed saw.
Really?
We
Okay.
did a couple of different sound design sessions, recording sessions, where I had this big old rusty saw. I found it on the street a couple years prior. I was like, this is going to come in use.
Yeah.
I have a cello bow, not because I play the cello, but because I'm a sound designer, So we bowed that saw and we got an incredible amount of really dark and intense drones and resonances out of that saw. And that is the groundwork for all of the Abyss sound design and all of the Abyss-oriented, darker, more tense sound design in the game as well.
Yeah, I think for anybody listening who maybe is, like a bode saw, what the hell does that sound like?
Sound designers know.
Yeah, well, I feel like the first time I ever heard it was, Patrick was it Patrick Watson maybe? I feel like he played a live show and had someone doing the bow saw, and it has like a very ethereal type tonal quality to it. And it's more musical than you would expect a bowed saw would be.
Especially when you add some nice resonance.
Yeah.
Reverb to that. A lot of reverb. So, fun fact, in the playground, when you're really getting to know the girls for the first time, this is before the garage scene, all of the playground equipment that you can move, so that's the seesaw and the merry-go-round, and not the swings. I think it's primarily those two, the seesaw and the merry-go-round. The creaking of that old rusty playground equipment, it's the saw.
Right. Cool. Yeah.
I'm impressed that even though these elements were like supernatural and more of a genre like type of palette of sounds, it's impressive. And I'm wondering, like, was it intentional to not make it clash that hard with the game? Because it really felt like it belonged in that world, even though clearly it didn't. But also,
But
like,
doesn't
it didn't go against it. Yeah, that's it. That line is like super fine, where it's like it's jarring, but it's not jarring. It feels like it fits in, but it's also like creepy and like dangerous.
Yeah, and one of the underlying elements of the town is that the abyss has always been there. It's part of the lore of the place that you are. So
Okay. Let's avoid spoilers and leave it there. But yeah, that's so cool. If I can circle back, we talked about the camera recordings and Swan being oftentimes like commenting on what you're watching, the whole system of branching conversations, pick your dialogue, you can cut, stuff reacts. Sounds like there was a huge amount of VO that went in the game. Could we talk a bit about how you guys managed that whole thing? Because it doesn't sound like it's a sort of like, let's drag and drop and like be messy about it. I'm assuming there's like systems and workflows to support that.
Yeah, well, so first of all, I think it's important to say that we didn't do the recordings of the VO ourselves. We had another studio, Goyon, did all of our VO recording, not counting the localization. And they did all of the editing. So we received correctly named final files of VO. So
Nice.
thank God. I mean, we would have needed a whole other body otherwise, because there was no way the two of us. We had help, especially late in game. We had an external sound designer from Pixel Audio, and we also had sound designers from Paris helping us out. But it was really the core team is Julien and I. So it would have been impossible if we hadn't had Goyon doing that for us.
Yeah, I think there are more than 28 lines of dialogues in the game. Yeah, it's
28,000.
28,000, yeah, obviously.
28, that's not that bad.
Long dialogue lines.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so also we started with a different dialogue system that we inherited from Paris, but during the course of production, the programmers and the narrative team worked together to create a brand new branching dialogue system that allowed them to work directly in Unreal. And that was really useful for a number of reasons. First of all, the system was cyclical. So what that means is that a writer writes a line, and the system worked such that immediately they were able to then play the game and see and hear the line in game. And what they were hearing was an automatic generic AI voice that was being pulled from a server and then used as a placeholder.
Right.
So right away, they've got this automatically generated file that's directly in Unreal that's giving them the feedback so they can play the game with their new words. For us in audio, of course, as soon as possible, we want to take those temporary files and pull them into our narrative hierarchy so that they start doing things like getting sent to the camcorder system, the buses, the mix, and all of that. Because right now, it's just like a Wise plugin. It's just a through, and we don't have any control over it. It wasn't positional or anything like that. But this allowed narrative to kind of hear the dialogue immediately in game. And then when we do a sync, then it takes that audio file, it drops it into the Wise structure, it bypasses the through, and it starts using the actual Wise event that has been automatically created inside of Wise, just a sync button. And then that can get submitted, and narrative doesn't see the difference, doesn't affect them at all. So whatever we're happening to do over here on the audio side, narrative flow continues, and it's not affecting the writing flow at all. And once we've done that, now it's in our mix structure, and we can start worrying about routing and mix and positioning and all of that fun stuff. So that's how we did development. And then, as we started going into the studio and getting those final files back from Game On, we were able to drop those in. They automatically overwrote the temporary audio, and then we were hearing final dialogue in game. If narrative went in and changed a line, the system automatically went back to the AI placeholder.
Right. It made sense you would have that kind of, infrastructure for a game that's all about the dialogue, all about the narrative. You wouldn't want any sort of roadblocks in that way. And also, if you're prototyping something, you're prototyping it with words in mind. It's not necessarily gameplay or anything. So it's vital that system works well. Sounds very cool. Yeah.
To test the dynamic of the dialogue in a scene, it's super important to have a very efficient and convincing AI voice like that, just to see, okay, we have to rewrite this part, we have to change this, the vocabulary doesn't match, before going to recording, because once it's recorded, it's harder to change.
Yeah. Did you ever have to do that and go back and certain lines didn't work, or...
Yeah, we did some retakes, but I would say considering the amount of dialogue in the game, it was a fairly low number of retakes.
Clearly, but some of the character changed, like the barman. He wasn't that kind originally in the game, so they decided to make him more kind, to create a more warm feeling in the bar. So they rewrote a lot of line for this character, for example. But considering the amount of line, as Beatrix said, it's really minor.
So originally,
one of the biggest struggles that we had ultimately with the system was simply that the AI tended to speak more quickly than our actors. So there was a lot of timing that had to there was a lot of retiming that had to be done, particularly in cinematics, because the cinematics were too short for the time that the actors were taking with lines, where the AI was just sort of like, dropping them like this.
I'm interested, did this sort of voice tool that they had, was there any kind of parameters that they can shift to change the speed of this generated line?
Unfortunately, I wish that would have helped a lot, but that was not one of the options that we had when we were generating the VO. Right. One other thing that we should talk about before we move on, though, is the action events on the VO. This was one of the elements that they incorporated into our in Unreal narrative tool, is that anybody can go into these dialogue scripters that the narrators are using and hook up events to a dialogue line. So the beginning of a dialogue line or the end of the line, so when the line begins or when it has finished speaking, we can trigger an event. And that's not a specific kind of event. That's very much just a signal that's being sent to the level designer blueprints. And so we can grab that signal in the level designer blueprint and use it to do whatever we want. A lot of the dynamic music changes and shifts were being triggered, some of the sound effects as well, but primarily this was driving our music system. And it gave us the ability to create this very musically cinematic experience where it seems like the music is really in line with what's happening, even though the timing is very much up to the player, what you're doing, where and how. But the emotion is driven by the dialogue and the conversations you're having. And so being able to trigger these music events directly from those lines of dialogue, incredibly empowering.
Was also sound effects being driven by
to some extent, some extent, but I would say much less so.
Right, it's your
more sound design, right? Sound effects were usually driven by you drop an object, then it's like in the
Right.
animation or whatever. But also a lot of sound design, right? Mood stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
to get-
like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you got it.
No, I just like hearing about the fact that, say, like when you were talking about the writers writing, then automatically getting their AI TTS voices in the game, and again with the whole putting the events in there as well, empowering basically anyone to trigger anything.
Yes.
It
The level
sounds like-
designers also used it a lot.
Yeah, well, it's just nice to hear again. If we go back to the beginning of when we were talking about the scale of the team, to be like, let's say you're about 50, but everyone's autonomous. There's no like
Yes.
big dependencies on like, oh, I have to wait for audio to generate the banks so I can hear this, and it doesn't work. Blah blah blah. Sounds like it makes for a more agile approach at making games than what we typically, I think, experience in the industry in this day
Yeah,
and age.
so before we had this dialogue system and we were working with the old tool, I had to ask level designers for every dynamic music shift hookup, every sound design hookup, even a lot of the sound effects, depending on how they were triggered or driven. As soon as we had this new system, I was working 90% more independently. It was amazing.
Cool. Wow, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just one small question on VO before we, get to wrapping this up, because we're about getting to that time. The actors, when they're performing when they're old and young, their voice does sound different. So is that all in the performance, or is there something else you're doing to the files?
There's
We
some
haven't
really
changed.
tiny EQ tweaks, but for the most part, it's the actors
Yeah,
doing that.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, they do a
Nice.
good job at
They
it.
do a
Like
great
for
job,
Swan,
yes.
like you do really notice that
Yeah.
there's more low end in the older performance. Yeah.
I guess it goes with the perspective as well. It felt more like this is the voice, like your perspective is sort of projecting.
Yeah. Originally, I actually wanted to use different microphones for the past and present, but that wasn't possible because they were doing facial capture.
Right.
And so it was just not possible with the equipment. In the end, they didn't end up using that material. They ended up approaching the facial expressions from an entirely different perspective. But by that time, we had already committed to using the same microphone. So
Okay.
it really is mostly the actors doing that.
And on that topic again, there's a lot of scenes where it felt like I'm curious, how did you guys manage to get or convey the sense that the characters were all having a genuine conversation like together? Whereas, like, I'm assuming with branching dialogue, it's impossible to be like, let's record the 96 quintillion versions they would require to get there. Like,
It
were
really
they
was
recording together
good.
or?
No, it was
Wow.
good acting and it was good voice direction.
Yeah. There's so many sort of like breaths that we typically don't hear in games that you sort of like get cleaned up.
That was a
But
very conscious choice. That was a request from Michel Koch. Yeah,
Okay.
he wanted it to feel real. He wanted us to prioritize naturalness over clarity.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean that works because every scene, like as I progressed through the game, I was like, "There's no way they recorded individually all the lines. There must be like a hybrid of like, there's I don't know a section that's done. Okay, now it's another section and like stitched together. But I couldn't figure like the stitching, and I was like, I'm going crazy with this."
Yeah,
wow.
it really was like your standard VO recording sessions. But very good voice direction, and the cast really got the brief and brought us there. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that you guys recorded a lot of your own stuff, a lot of field recording. How did that go? Any interesting stories with field recording on this game?
Go ahead.
I have
Julien.
I have one fun story. So we did a bunch of field recording, indeed, in Canada, in Montreal. Beatrix did some in Saskatchewan, and I did some in France. And I was with my best friend at that time. He doesn't work in video game at all, and he wanted to know what field recording looks like. What do you do? So I just explained him. You put a microphone somewhere, and basically you don't have to make noise. You should avoid to make noise. And because our game happens often as some moment in the forest at night, my grandparents live close to a forest, really close to a forest, close to Lyon, because I'm from Lyon in France. And I thought, okay, I should have some recording from the forest at night. It will be more authentic, could be a useful material for us. So we went together, my best friend and I, to the forest. It was midnight 30. I just had a lamp that you put on your hand, on your head, and I put the microphone in the middle of a path in the forest, and I told my best friend, okay, yeah, we should go back to avoid, to make noise like breathing, movement, rustling, things like that, and we will wait like a good 20-30 minutes to have enough material. So the recording was rolling. I left my stuff there. We were like 50 meters below, and suddenly we started to hear some wild boars movement in the forest. And if you don't know, wild boar can be very dangerous if they charging you, and they mostly charge you when they are with their kids. So I didn't know much about what to do, but I told my best friend, okay, we should go to a tree to avoid all kind of problems. So, and yeah, fun fact, it was my birthday that day. So,
wow. So happy birthday.
Yeah, so for my birthday, I stayed with my best friend 20 minutes in the trees like that to avoid wild boars. And we were on the path we suddenly saw one coming. Ooh, and it's massive. It's really huge. You don't want to meet them. So I wasn't really scared. I was mostly scared for the microphone, which was a expensive microphone, and my recorder that I left on the path. But we heard a lot of them because they are walking together in general. This one was like alone, but it joined probably the group, and they finally left. So. When they seem to be far, I told my best friend, okay, I'm gonna grab the microphone, and we run away. And so the thing is, the recordings of this field recording moment are in game. Yeah, so if you if you go back to the forest at night in our game, you can think about all the risk I took.
I remember specifically a big tonal shift at night when you're in the cabin, and you do hear some distant animals.
Yeah, we put some. It's not only from the field recording, we put some emitters here and there, specifically located. And but yeah, it's a blend of several elements like field recording, but also synths and drones that I created with synths, and plus the element Beatrix told us about before.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have another tiny little story. This is not a recording that either of us took, actually. We were working on the ambiences for the ranch at night, Cat's Ranch, and we wanted some unique animal night sounds that were not already being used elsewhere in the game. And I really wanted a coyote or a coyote, just way off in the distance. And we didn't really have the right sounds in our libraries that we had access to. And I grew up in Saskatchewan, so like I have a very clear imagining like what I wanted that to sound like from my own memories. And then my sister sent a video to our family hangouts chat where she was out walking her dogs, and the dogs encountered a coyote. Ooh. And it was perfect. It's perfect. I was like, nice. That's the sound. So we actually used the recording that my sister made of walking the dogs outside the city. and coyotes barking at them. Yeah, that's perfect.
She recorded this. You said, would you say on her phone?
Just on her phone. It's a video.
That's awesome. That's
but
awesome.
The quality was there. It was great. Yeah.
That's cool.
Those
it
happy
made it,
accidents.
Yeah. And it made its way into the game. Phone recording, it could do the job. Yeah. Well, when you're in a tree escaping a boar, in those moments you're like, is this what it means to make a game?
Yeah,
Never
well,
made
in
a
the
game
end,
then.
in the end, it's a cool memory and a cool anecdote to tell. So yeah.
Nice.
Great. Well, yeah, I think, Dan, unless there's any more questions, anything you want to bring up, I think that we've covered quite a few things today.
Well, we always ask one little formulaic question for us, and it's this. It's directed at both of you, so come up with an answer because it might not be the same, right? Would you have any advice to give your past self, as you joined the project, now that you're aware of everything how it went down and it's passed, it's shipped? Was there any advice you'd like to give your past self?
Beware of boars.
I knew you were gonna go there. That's amazing. Beware of boars.
On my part, I think I would have adjusted the hierarchy of the VO structure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I was thinking a lot. We were originally planning on doing more EQ treatment and things per character and per character age. So our top level of hierarchy is by character before we go into by scene and line. But ultimately, we didn't really do much treatment on the VO at all. And so it was mostly an inconvenience that we didn't have the dialogue from different characters together in the same containers. So, yeah.
Yeah. On a more serious note for myself, I think I would tell my past self, see the integration and the technique approach as another element that could feed your creativity, because I had a tendency for a long time to separate it something very creative from something very technical. And actually Beatrix told me a lot of time, and she was right, that the technical approach gives you more idea when you create, when you do iteration, because you already know what kind of system is there or that you could create. And that I would push myself to go more into that direction and that approach.
Yeah, the two inform each other, and just creating systems in and of itself is a creative endeavor, for sure.
It's just more tools. It's like talking a foreign language. The more verbs you have, the more vocabulary you have, the more efficient you are to talk.
Yeah, you're expressing something. Yeah, that's beautiful. Very beautiful.
It feels like there's always the creative ambition will inform what kind of technical, I guess, inventions you're going to need to do. And then once you have that, you can think about how can you use this? And that back
I'm
and forth
a
is
huge
amazing.
proponent of one sound designer going from conception through final integration. And it's because the technical elements inspire my creativity so much, and to be able to reiterate and I'm designing sounds knowing how I want the system to be, and then also I'm coming back to the creative side of things to make those systems more efficient and more powerful. And I think that whole cyclical process empowers you to do much cooler stuff than if you're just doing your sound design and then you're doing your integration, or even worse if you have two different sound designers doing those things. I think the new way is that we do it all.
Yeah. Being a generalist, being able to do all the things, you're then making content which isn't just, I don't know, I can imagine one making content that's really pleasing and then they throw it over the fence to somebody to integrate it. But sometimes the content doesn't always need to be full spectrum pleasing. Sometimes it's weird, and that can be sometimes when you're the one implementing it, you're really aware of that really niche kind of sound that this feature needs or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, it's a lot of guesswork, right? You're trying to guess how it's going to sound in game once it's integrated, right? Which is completely different than hearing it linearly on your DAW. And as an integrator, you're trying to guess what the creator was trying to go for, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus I think it's one of the aspect made possible by the fact that we are a tiny team. There are no like type day. Someday you will do UI sound, someday you will do field recording, sometimes you will do integration, sometimes VO edit, and
Foley.
Foley, and that's what make the job passionating for me. Like it's really a thing I do love. It's all this thing you can do.
Yeah. Sounds like you can never really get bored because you're switching hats so often.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fun.
Cool. Well,
is there anything else? Anything else you guys wanted to bring out? No.
Yeah, the game is out. You can buy it, and you can and you can buy the soundtrack too.
Yeah,
that's on vinyl as well.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay,
that's super cool.
That's what. That's back there. There it is.
It's a double vinyl. So yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Super cool.
Nice.
Great note to end off. Thanks for taking the time and chatting with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for your interest.
All right. And have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.